Time to take a look at my top 5 albums from the 70s. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Metal Junkie, and today I'm going to be ranking the top 5 albums from the 70s. For me, my personal favorites. This was an extremely hard list to make. Not a whole lot of deep cuts, mostly familiar albums for the most part to any rock or metal head. Normally I'm doing reactions all the time, but I want to start putting out content like this. Maybe go through each decade, 70s, 80s, 90s, work our way up to modern times. So the rules are only one album per band. I don't want this to be just a list of all a discography from one guy, you know. This is going to be just one album per band to keep things interesting. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So coming in at number 5, we got AC/DC Highway to Hell. My personal favorite AC/DC album. I'm a huge fan of the Bon Scott era. Unfortunately, this was the last album he did before he passed. This album has it all for me. Highway to Hell, obviously a huge standout track, title track of the album, but songs like Touch Too Much, it reminds me of like a Kiss track from the 70s, when Kiss, before they sold out and become all poppy, you know, when they were rockers from the 70s. It reminds me of that. You got other songs like Walk All Over You, The Prowler, just so many good tracks that don't get played too often, you know, aside from Highway to Hell. I even like the little riff in Beating Around the Bush. So cool, so groovy. Just a great AC/DC album with tracks that you don't hear too often. I think that's why I really enjoy it. These are the AC/DC songs I go back to the most. Up next, at number 4, we got Deep Purple, Machine Head. What a friggin' album. One of the first heavy metal albums ever made. A good mix of rock and early metal. Everybody knows Smoke on the Water, but it's unfortunate that that's the only song people basically look at on this album. Maybe Highway Star, but the rest of the tracks are all just as good, man. Space Truckin', Maybe I'm a Leo. Love the little riff in that one. It's really funky. Of course, Pictures of Home. Even just the intro to that, the drums going off. Such talented musicians here. Richie Blackmore created such an influential album with his riffs. He went on to do great things with Rainbow after this, but man, this one is a must listen. And of course, it's not just the guitars going off. The keyboard is absolutely insane on this album. It even has like a few solo sections, and it's magnificent. Up next at number 3, we have Van Halen. Van Halen, their debut. What a way to start your career, eh? Eddie Van Halen brought his own style to the genre, which we have never really seen before. Just his methods and the way he came up with riffs, the way he played harmonics, and of course his tapping technique. It has been seen before, just a tiny bit before Van Halen, but most bands weren't out tapping and doing all these crazy things. Look at Eruption, one of the best solos ever made. You Really Got Me and Ice Cream Man are great covers, which they really make their own. Ain't Talking About Love has to be one of the greatest songs ever written. I just absolutely love this album. Never a dull moment. Coming in at number 2, we got Black Sabbath, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Now, I know this isn't the popular pick if you're picking a Sabbath album from the 70s, but man, this is my favorite of theirs, especially in the Ozzy era. Yes, other albums like Paranoid and that they have more iconic songs, a lot more of the greatest hits. And that's maybe why I like this album better. The only big track on here is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. All the rest are fairly unknown to the general public. So I just keep coming back to it and coming back to this album. I love all the songs like National Acrobat. Killing Yourself to Live is super underrated. Even Who Are You, as weird and like electronic as it is, it gives that album just a little bit more flavor, you know. And this is an album I can re-listen to a million times. It's heavy. It's got a cool tuning to it. It's not just straight up standard tuning. You have to tune down a bit and half step it, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I know it's a different style of tuning on this album, which gives it, again, another sound that we never really heard before on Black Sabbath. And I know the guys were in pretty bad shape when this album came out. Their touring and their addictions and that were starting to get to them. But man, did they ever pull out an amazing piece of art. Before I give you my top pick, here's a few honorable mentions. Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin 4. Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell. Kiss, Destroyer. Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny. Rush, Hemispheres. But coming in the first place for me is Alice Cooper, Killer. Oh my god, what an album. You can't go wrong, just like Black Sabbath. Alice Cooper is first, not his first two albums, but Love It to Death all the way to Welcome to My Nightmare. Masterpiece, man. Whether you're talking about Killer, then School's Out, then $1 Billion Babies, man. Muscle of Love is just okay, but most of those albums were freaking fantastic. Of course, this is Alice Cooper, the band, before he went solo and made Welcome to My Nightmare, which is a contender to be my number one as well. But since I'm only picking one album per band, I had to go with Killer. This one is just so cool. You got a Dead Babies as their like standout single on here, but then you got other songs like Halo of Flies, one of their more progressive songs they've ever made. And I love the journey that song takes you on. Never a dull moment on this album. No skippable songs. They're all amazing. And they give you a variety of styles, I feel. Like, it's all rock, but, you know, you got songs like Under My Wheels, which is more straightforward. Then you got the more, like I said, proggy style of Halo of Flies. It has its heavy moments. It has its groove. It's the full package. Like I said, you can't go wrong with the early Alice Cooper albums, but this one is my personal favorite, and it easily comes in the number one for the 70s. So there you have it, guys. There's my top 5 albums of 1970s. Let me know yours. Definitely not going to match up with mine. I guarantee it. I'm sure you guys have some more deep cuts in there and that. I'm not super familiar with the 70s. I have my bands that I know their discographies. But like you guys know with my reactions, I never really dug into much Yes or Genesis or bands like that. Even bands like Aerosmith, I know all their greatest hits. I own their greatest hits, but I never took a deep dive on their studio albums. So let me know your top 5 albums down in the comment section. Even give me your top 10 if you'd like. This is extremely difficult to do, so it may take you some time. I know it took me a while, but I'm glad I finally got it down pat. Up next, I'm going to try to come up with my top 5 80s albums. I'll try to come up with that as soon as possible, whenever I could figure it out. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.